Got one
You're
more
good.
question today?
Yep, we do. Second question again is from Cora, and it asks: Is appearing big a strategic competitive advantage in business?
Well, yeah, it is, and it's that old adage, "Fake it till you make it," except done a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to out and out lie and say, "Hey, we have 50 employees," when you have two and you're a startup working out of your garage. But at the same time, in e-commerce especially, signals of trust are such a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at, is this company legitimate? Well, how do you do that? Well, simple things like having a 1-800 number. I mean, that is the ultimate sign because they used to be super expensive, and you've
Mm-hmm.
got some older folks that look at that as a real big signal of trust. Hey, free returns for the lifetime of the business. I saw that. I saw 61-year return policy on Cotopaxi, which is evidently the lifetime of a human. Zappos. There's been a few 365. There's
Mm-hmm.
been some other lifetime guarantees. So anything you can do on that, I mean, that is a sign of a big company that's going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
One other thing, on a completely different note, how to get PR. One of my really good friends, Catalina Gerald, she runs, isn't this a great story? She runs Naya, which is a eco-conscious lingerie brand. I worked with them for a little while and really enjoyed one of the tactics. I actually learned it, believe it or not, from Richard Branson.
Mm-hmm.
So what she did was did the subway wrapper in the trendiest stop in all of Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was not that expensive to do one spot, but what she did is called the national press and said, hey, here's this subway stop. This is part of a huge national campaign. And she got, oh my gosh, 100 mentions in literally the best fashion magazines you could possibly talk about, Vogue and everything else around that.
I think they did a measure of just 48 hours after they launched the campaign, and they got, I think it was like $20 million worth of earned media.
Yeah, it was
just
a
from,
lot.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It was spectacular. And I got to watch that kind of on the inside. The website almost broke several times, and it was great. But she got it, like I said, from Richard Branson. First thing he did when he was, I can't remember, it was Virgin Record. I think it was Virgin Records when he first launched that. Put up this billboard in a very expensive part of Manhattan, called the press out and said, this is part of a huge nationwide campaign. And, of course it worked, and he's been knighted. I haven't been knighted yet, and neither have you, so maybe we'll come up with a way to do that.
Yeah, and I think if that's out of your reach, the last thing you can do is you can act big by being mentioned in the names of big people. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have the ability to be a big company, you need to be in the company of those big companies. So write about and talk about the largest companies that you can think about, and try and get your name synonymous with that space. Leverage very big influencers. The size and scope of your company, especially if you're an e-commerce company, is really dependent upon who's repping your brand at the time. So if you can come in, BarkBox is a great example. Crusoe the dog is the most famous dog on, I think, the earth. And BarkBox locked them into a 2-year deal back in 2014 and was like, hey, you're going to be our spokesperson. And it helped grow that company so well. And it was such a smart move because they looked huge. Yeah. Because they had the number one celebrity dog, it was
Bonobos the same way. They took capital. They just sold for $350 million to a Walmart, but they took capital from Nordstrom back in the day. And Andy Dunn told me that being on the shelves in Nordstrom had two advantages. Number one, it was contribution margin positive customer acquisition. So they would do the marketing for you for this startup brand that at the time no one had ever heard of. And the other thing is you're associated now on the shelves of Nordstrom with all these other brands. Yep. So you are cool by association. You're popular by association. You're trusted by association. Mm-hmm. And all those things work to your advantage, especially as an early stage e-commerce startup.